unfair for you to make an instant diagnosis. Have you heard of the Growler?
No.
This guy?
Oh.
No.
He was flying to Utah, speaking of polygamy. He was flying from Los Angeles to Utah this week, and one of the passengers on the plane violated his privacy, which I think is unfair. This is actual footage of a man from Utah who had too much to drink, which is a big problem in Utah with the drinking. And this is the video.
Well, it started off kind of entertaining, but then I realized he's probably lost his mind a little bit, and I feel bad for the guy.
They made a movie about this guy. Remember Hannibal Lecter? That was him.
Yeah, someone said, it sounds like he's just impersonating the engine of the airplane.
So he apparently had too much to drink.
Yeah.
Why are we giving people alcohol on airplanes still? That's nuts. Enough with the high altitude vodka. It should not be allowed anymore. People cannot behave normally in that setting. We gotta stop with the alcohol on planes. Really.
This didn't happen before. We didn't have guys like that on planes.
No, we had it, but not as much. But the reason they give alcohol on planes, two reasons, I think. One is to make a few extra bucks because they overcharge for it. But secondly, the idea is that people are nervous when they fly, and therefore they take a couple of shots and they'll be less nervous, which, by the way, doesn't really happen, and they just get out of control.
Right. Yeah.
Alcohol is a terrible tranquilizer.
Why is that?
Because it's just not the Valium makes you less nervous. Alcohol doesn't. Alcohol makes you uninhibited and you do nutsy things.
So what the doctor is saying is it should be a fresh towel, Valium, fresh towel, Valium, fresh towel, chicken or fish, Valium or benzodiazepine, Valium.
Yeah. It would be great. They go, nuts? No, I'm allergic to nuts. No, I mean, are you nuts? Would you like a Valium to calm down? This guy is so he.
Have you? By the way, have you been in first class when they give you warm nuts? That's happened once or twice. Warm nuts. No, my nuts are fine. In fact, it's a little warm in here already. If you wouldn't.
So he mixed alcohol with political rage. Yeah. He started shouting about Joe Biden. He kept going, I'll play it for you in a second, just so you can hear this. I'll just tell you, he's screaming, Joe Biden, really? Like Joe Biden's our president, really? And that he then talks about how much he loves America, that there are people in our country who do not see America as a benign nation. They see it as evil. So then he stood up, and let's watch what happens.
Now! Sit down now! You can't hold us! We're all on the ground, sir. Yes, we are! We're only grounded! Sit! Is anyone else going to do that? Sit! God! Sit! You sit down last seat, you stay blinded! Really?
His response was, Joe Biden, really?
The guy, we have a puppy here, and when you give the command to sit, you have to have a treat. That would have been the perfect moment for the warm nuts. You gotta have a treat with the sit, or else they don't learn.
So you're saying the mistake, because I'm going to play you the third act of this, the mistake that the flight attendant made was when he sat, he didn't say good boy.
You have to reward him for exactly. Right. He gave the command very firmly. That was correct. He repeated it. That was correct.
You're like Cesar Millan for flight attendants.
Exactly. The stewardess whisperer.
This is unbelievable.
The other mistake was that he did not open the exit door and push this guy out.
So he says, Biden really, that's his response to being told to sit down. Biden really. And then he goes into a reverie, a drunken reverie about people who hate America and that people who voted for Joe Biden think that America is not a benign country. And then something shocking happens at the end. Watch it all the way through, and then I'd like your reaction to all of it, but specifically his last words.
Sorry, folks, but that's what they think of America. They think that it is a disgrace. I think of America as not a disgrace. I think of America as not a disgrace. Really? Yeah. Really? Really?
I don't know if you were able to hear it, but he was saying, I do not think of America as a disgrace. And then he looks up, and he's white. We have a lot of people listening to this right now, and he sees the cops. And what does he say?
Really?
Really?
Really? It's just, you're going to arrest me, moi, for loving? I mean, his incredulity that he could be arrested for his behavior, it just reeks of alcohol and white privilege, doesn't it?
It does, but on the other hand, my first thought was, look at these cops dressed like commandos, 3 of them, this show of force that's just brutal and unnecessary. The guy, what did he do? He was a pest. He didn't hurt anybody. He did nothing. I mean, this is a guy who, in my opinion, should just be sent on his way. And I don't know. I feel like this is another one of those examples where we're using cops in situations where cops are not needed. It's not a crime. It's bizarre.
I don't know. You know what?
No, it's not a criminal. If he was doing that to a baby in the next seat and
but he's doing it to everybody on that plane. So I think he probably is doing something criminal by acting in a threatening manner.
But he's not. I don't think he was threatening anyone. That's my opinion.
Nobody knows who's on that, and the people on the plane could feel threatened, and the cops didn't do anything. They just showed up and escorted him off the plane. They didn't even take their guns out.
Right, but you can imagine what happens to someone once that moment happens. They're then incarcerated. They then have tens of thousands of dollars in legal bills. I mean, all sorts of things devolve from that interaction that just do not have to. I think we got to eliminate alcohol from the airplanes. Go to my website. And, I'm running for office.
I concur with Dr. Hirschenfeld. And before you go, I'm going to ask Ethan this, and thank you for waiting.
I'm not going anywhere unless you get cops to drag me out of here.
Okay, now you're flying, and this gentleman is growling, and there's an announcement made over the speaker. Is there a doctor here? Yeah. We have somebody who needs medical assistance. I'm going to ask Ethan. You're traveling with your esteemed colleague, Dr. Hirschenfeld. The two of you are traveling to a conference for Freudian psychoanalysts, and they ask, we have a passenger in crisis. Is there a doctor here? You and Dr. Hirschenfeld.
The very first question is he in business or is he in economy plus? Because those guys in economy plus, they don't pay. You do all the work and then they never fork it over. No. What's the question?
So you're sitting with your esteemed colleague, Dr. Philip Hirschenfeld. The both of you have gotten permission from your wives to go to this psychoanalytic convention in Las
Vegas.
In Vegas. You know, you've been looking for, and now they ask, is there a doctor on the plane? You're going to have a conversation. Should we get involved? How would the conversation go? What would you recommend? Would you want to get involved with a passenger in crisis?
I would say, look, on the one hand, you have to think about the Hippocratic Oath. What is that again?
Don't do any harm.
Don't do any harm. Exactly. So you think about the Hippocratic Oath on the one hand. On the other hand, you got to think about your gold status with Delta. It doesn't come cheap, especially in these years when we're not flying all that much.
Right.
I would say.
Would you recommend going over there? They're saying we have a passenger growling, and he's upset about Joe Biden being president. We need to calm him down. Would you get involved?
I would send my father over there to do it because he's the actual doctor, and he was a wrestler in school. I played golf, so.
I did at one time. They said, "Is there a doctor on the plane?" And I went up into.
And you were like, "Well, I'm a psychiatrist. I know it's not." Like, does he have a real problem, or does he just think he has a problem? No, go ahead. Sorry.
Be that as it may, they had a guy up in first class laying in the aisle, and they had decided he had a heart attack. And they were going to go land somewhere, which would have cost the airline thousands and thousands of dollars. I examined the guy. I took his pulse. I put my ear to his chest. I didn't have an electrocardiogram, but to the best I could tell, he was not having a heart attack. He had no real signs of it. He seemed fine. He seemed alert. And I said, no heart attack. And we flew on to his destination. And I expected something from the fucking airline. Nothing. Absolutely
An upgrade, something.
Yeah, a free ticket somewhere.
A voucher.
But
some warm nuts.
The growling guy, if somebody said there's somebody growling in the back of the airplane, I would have the same attitude that I once had to a patient of mine, was a psychiatry resident, a wonderful person, a good person. And she came in and told me that an ex-patient, came onto the ward with a gun, and she went and talked to him. And I think that's the only time in all my practice when I yelled at somebody. And I said, "Are you fucking out of your mind? Guns are not our specialty. Guns are the province of the cops. You do not confront people with guns because that's totally grandiose, and you're going to get yourself killed." So if I had been told there's somebody growling, I would have said, "Not my job."
I would have said, the first question is he growling like a chihuahua or like a bear? Those are both considered growls, but they're very, very different.
Great.